Hello and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Millie and I love indie makeup, especially shiny, shifty, and sparkly eyeshadows. And today I'm going to be talking about one of the most beautiful palettes I think that has come out in 2022 yet, and that is the Glaminatrix Nocturnal Palette. If you're watching this video, you've probably already seen it, and that's why you're here, because this color story is just so beautiful. It's definitely super grungy, almost bordering on Halloween themed. We have shades such as Witching Hour, Nightfall, Dusk Shadow, etc. But I would like to refer to this palette as like spring grunge, so almost similarly to the Kaleidos Flower Punk palette that came out last year. It had a beautiful balance of some more pastel shades and some grungy olivey tones, but I love the pop of these two specifically, which is obscurity and murky. And we have some beautiful shifty metallic shadows, which you know are right up my alley. And I did receive this palette in PR from Glaminatrix Cosmetics, so thank you so much for sending me this palette so I could try it out. I was very excited. I was going to be buying it regardless. There's no way I was going to miss this palette. I really like this packaging. It's quite a bit of a step up from their previous palette, which was just cardboard. It does have like a nice fall leather feel and the name of the palette and their brand name is engraved into it, and it's got the fine stitching, so it does remind me of the Adept Cosmetics palettes. However, I do want to mention that it is a bit different. This is definitely much lighter because this is foam, and you can see that as it's like exposed on the edges. And I do want to say it's a little bit harder to open because of that, because the foam is glued to the cover, so it just does feel like hopefully they won't like kind of pull apart at some point. And it does look super sleek on the inside as well. It does have a mirror, and they also set a few single eyeshadows, so stay tuned for that video. But today it's going to be all about this beautiful palette. I will be doing 4 looks as well as some swatch comparisons of the metallic shades as always, so let's get right into it. First up for comparisons is a Milky Way versus Kaleidoscope from Clionadh Cosmetics. Color-wise, I feel like they're just slightly different. Milky Way is just really strong. Also, the texture is very different. Kaleidoscope is smoother, and Milky Way just has a lot more sparkle to it. I feel like that's definitely translating in swatches. Next up is Constellation versus Centaurus from Devinah. And texture-wise, they're completely different. Color-wise, definitely similar, but Centaurus is darker. I think you can tell that Constellation just looks smoother, and so it looks more metallic versus sparkly like the Devinah. Next up is Dusk versus Starfire from Devinah, Roseline from Clionadh, and Engrave from Clionadh. So Starfire has a different tone to it as well as a shift, but Roseline and Engrave are a little bit similar, but I do feel like the tone straight on is just a bit different. Dusk just looks like a very light pink, and it does have somewhat of a base to it, which Engrave doesn't have as much of a base to it. Like Roseline has a little bit of a almost brown base, so I do think it's most similar to Roseline. Next up is Luna compared to Abrasion from Clionadh, Messier from Devinah, and Azure from Clionadh. I think Messier is not really that similar at all. It has more of a green tone to it rather than blue. Azure is also more of a green, and the shift is different. But between Abrasion and Luna, Abrasion has more of a reddish brown base compared to Luna. Luna has more of almost like a yellow base. Hopefully you can kind of tell certain angles, like these usually on the other side where the light's not shining from, you can tell that there's just a little bit different of a base. And last up is a Night Vision. This one has quite a few comparisons. So we've got Big Bang underneath from Terra Moons, then Verte from Clionadh Cosmetics, then M51 from Terra Moons again, and Asteria from Devinah. Asteria has a very much reddish brown base to it, so I would just rule that one out as like being really similar. Though Big Bang and Verte and M51 definitely similar, but the tones are different. I think M51's tone straight on is much more similar to Night Vision. It's just got that like grassy green tone to it, but even then the Night Vision shade is just a little bit more like a yellow green, versus Big Bang and Verte are more of a forest green. And I also think the shift in Big Bang and Verte is much more obvious. Well, kind of in 51 too, more obvious than in Night Vision. Priming with the Natasha Denona eyeshadow primer. I feel like I'm almost finished with it. I can kind of start seeing scraping of the sides there. Taking Witching Hour, I'm going to pop that into the crease. I really want to kind of go in slowly with this shade. I'm just gonna build it up first. And I am gonna just take it out here as well. Next, I'm taking Obscurity and I'm going to blend that on the outer edge of that shade. This is such a beautiful, beautiful shade. Putting it in here as well. Definitely going to have to go back in with the other shade. Back in with Witching Hour. I'm just gonna blend it into the blue. It's kind of taking off the blue here. It's really weird. I think I should have started with the blue and then went in with this shade. Going in with a little bit more. And take it on this outer corner. Back in with Witching Hour. It's just kind of doing it right here. Like right here it's totally fine, so might just be something funky happening there. I'm going in with shadow. I'm just going to deepen out this area really right against my lash line. Going in with the Fairly Pixie Epoxy, I'm going to do a fake half cut crease. Definitely put on too much, so I'm just going to wipe a little bit off and tap it. Going in with Luna. Oh yeah, that is such a pretty shade. Ooh, it's got a little bit more of like a transparent background to it, so it's not black based. And then right above it, going in with Milky Way. Whoa, that's so pretty. It's a little bit brighter, but they're looking a little similar on the lid. I'll have to check out this shift. Finishing off this look with Witching Hour under my lower lash line. And then blending Obscurity into it, into just the edge of it. I'm taking just a tiny bit of shadow just to deepen it out here a little bit more. To finish off the look, I put on the Intangible Lashes from Unearthly Cosmetics. And in the waterline, I have the Hello Babe Multichrome Liner from Sugar Drizzle Polish. The second look, I'm priming with the P. Louise paint, and I put on way too much. I should know by now that a little goes a long way. Going in with Fog. Just gonna put that on the inner third of my crease. And then Murky next to it. Oh, this shade is so beautiful. I'm gonna end up going in with Nightfall on the outer corner. Love this color too, such a beautiful tone. And I'm gonna just blend it in with Murky a little bit. I'm taking just a translucent powder and going over the edges, just taking a little bit of shadow to deepen out this outer corner a little bit. Really want to make sure it's contained. I don't want to let this get out of hand. And I'm just gonna blend it out a little bit. Oh yeah, that now it's like a deep teal. Love that. Look at how nicely that blended together. Okay, my Fairly Pixie Epoxy, doing a fake half cut crease. Tapping it out. Going in with Constellation first. Putting it right above. And then Night Vision below that. Whoa, so pretty. This reminds me of Verte and Big Bang from Clionadh and Terra Moons. Definitely will have to compare these. Okay, going back in with Constellation, I think I went a little too much Night Vision. And then I'm just gonna blend the shimmers out here. Finishing off this look with Nightfall under my lower lash line. Just a little bit more. I'm going to take just a tiny bit of shadow to finish off the second look, I put on the Intangible Lashes from Unearthly Cosmetics, and in the waterline, I have the Moonbeam Multi-Chrome Liner from Sugar Drizzle Polish. Priming with the P. Louise paint, going in with Nightfall, and I'm going to keep it right in this area and just lightly kind of blend it out there. And then I cleaned off my brush and I'm just going to blend the edges. Go in with a little bit more. Going in with Witching Hour, I'm going to create a wing. And I am going to take it basically all over my lid. Just going to keep packing it on. This one definitely feel like it's a little harder pressed and just takes a bit of building up, which I think just makes it a little bit more usable because you can just keep building it up versus like pigmentation right off the bat. And so just packing it all the way down there. I'm taking Marquee next to that under my lower lash line. I love the shade next to the burgundy. Like, look at that together, it was just so fun. Going in with the Fair & Pixie Epoxy, I'm going to do a fake half cut crease. I'm not going to take it all the way down into the liner, just a little bit. And I do like to tap that out. And I'm picking up Milky Way, which is pretty loose in the pan. It's very softly pressed. And it's going to be basically a highlight. Definitely feel like I need a toothier, quite a bit of fallout, a toothier kind of brush to just help pick it up. So I'm just working it, definitely pretty sheer. I'm just working it into this outline. I'm just gonna use my pinky to go in to do the inner corner. Ooh, that's so pretty. And going back in just a little bit more of Witching Hour. Didn't want to take the shimmer down that far. Put on the Immortal Lashes from Unearthly Cosmetics. In the waterline, I have the Prance eyeliner from ColourPop. I just panicked for a second. I thought I wasn't filming the whole time I was doing the other eye. And I was ready to scream or cry or both. But anyways, I'm priming again with the P. Louise Paint Primer. I want to do a halo eye on the side, so I'm starting out with Gloom. And it's going right into the outer corner. And on the inner lid, just packing it on. And then I'm going to take Murky to blend it out. Ooh, these two shades are so perfect for each other. It just gives me that vibrancy. Just a little bit more. And then going back in with Gloom. And then taking Murky out here. I love that. It's definitely giving me like Beetlejuice vibes, you know, how it looks kind of like moldy. That's an awful way to describe eyeshadows, but I think you get what I mean if you've seen Beetlejuice. Then going back in with Gloom. Just want to blend it into Murky a little bit more. I do feel like it's sticking down a little bit. I'm going to take more Gloom here. I think next time I would start with a lighter shade and then go in with Murky. Do you see how it's kind of giving me a line here? It doesn't really want to blend there. So I'm just gonna tap on the shadow and see. It might just be the primer too. Maybe this needs a little bit different kind of primer. A little bit more murky here. Can't get enough of murky for sure. Putting down the Fairnay Pixie Epoxy right in the center and just tapping it out. I haven't used dusk yet. I don't know if it really goes with this look, but I want to use it at least just along my lash line a little bit, kind of like right there, and then take Constellation and just layer it. A little bit more going in with my finger. Come back in with a little bit more dusk. And taking Gloom under the lower lash line. And then Murky. Just feathering it out onto the edges. And I picked up Constellation and I sprayed my brush. And popping that right underneath, right in the center. I'm going to take just a little bit of shadow and pop it like right against my lash line just to give a little bit more depth, but I don't want to take it too far, so I am going to just be tapping it on to really ensure that it doesn't get too out of control too fast. I'm just going to take it a little bit under my lower lash line as well. I usually don't do this on the inner corner, but here we are. Definitely interesting. Going in with Milky Way, and I'm going to pop that in the inner corner. Crazy how it really brings out the teal there. Put on the Immortal Lashes from Unearthly Cosmetics. And in the waterline, I have Wildcat from ColourPop. I can't rave about this color story enough because it really just is so inspiring to me, and I was really trying to think out different looks to do. I really feel like you could do some more monochromatic looks, specifically with the grungy, yellowy mustard greens, and you could also do something really, really colorful with murky and obscurity. I'm obsessed with this obscurity shade. I cannot wait to film a reel with this palette because I really just want to play with that shade some more. So let's talk about the matte formula. I feel like these feel a little bit different from what I'm used to from the You Beauty palette, for example, as well as the Sandra Rose. I feel like some of these are a little bit harder pressed in here, mainly Witching Hour. I did have a little bit of trouble with Witching Hour and Gloom, as you saw in the tutorial, but that could have been the primer. It could also have been my technique, because I feel like these might be the types of shades that you actually go in with a lighter shade and then blend the darker shade into it versus going in the other way around. So I'm going to be trying that out for the next couple of looks I do with this palette. But other than that, there's lots of pigmentation with all the other mattes. I love the shade Shadow. I love that it's in here to deepen out some of these shades even further. I think it worked beautifully. It layered beautifully and blended into these other shades, and I used it pretty much for 3 out of the 4 looks. So moving on to the metallics are really smooth, really, really shiny and metallic and beautiful. The shifts are just a little bit on the subtle side, especially on some of these shades like Night Vision and Constellation. Milky Way is extremely dimensional, just so beautiful. Definitely a fun one to really play with layering all over these other tones. I do want to mention though, it is a little bit looser in the pan. It seems like the texture of the mica actually reminds me of the shimmers in the Clarity Cosmetics Mermazing palette, where they're almost loose because of just the way that the pigment feels, while the other metallics in the palette feel like they're really nice and set in the pan. So just would be careful with that one for sure, and go in with a very light hand with a brush, because I did kind of really disturb the pen when I went into that shade, or just, of course, you can use your finger, but I didn't experience any texture accentuation on my lids, which is always great. So overall, I'm really enjoying this palette. I cannot wait to do more looks. Like, honestly, there's just so many possibilities with this color story. I cannot talk about the color story enough. There's something about it, and I know that a lot of people feel the same way, because I saw the way that pictures of this palette swept the indie beauty community. Everyone was like, oh my goodness, what is this palette? I can definitely see this palette in my top palettes of 2022. Like, I just already know because I love the color story so much. Okay, I'm done. That's everything for this video. Let me know in the comments below if you picked this palette up or you plan on picking it up. I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to my channel, I would love it if you subscribe. There's so much indie makeup content, lots and lots of tutorials with sparkly, shiny, shifty eyeshadows, and much more to come. You don't want to miss out. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.